All right, so let's actually open the app we did last time and run it. I was just showing some kind of a demo app here. So, all right, so last time we were building this kind of new recipe app that shows you different things, and we went through all the new screens, navigations, as well as some of the very basic widget text, buttons, and also edit text. Okay, or it's not, is that called edit text? Text field. Yeah. All right. Let me change this one. It's confusing. All right, so text field, you got these examples here to show you the input output. This is about text, different styles. This for buttons. All right, so let's actually keep moving on. And then a couple of topics I want to mention here. One is the use of a container. It's very important. Okay, so let's actually go back. To do that, I would like to just, again, I'll probably just create a button for everything, and we can organize those at the end. All right, so I will probably use the buttons as examples. All right, so what I can do, I can just copy and paste this button screen. I'll make it as a container page. All right. So this is a container page, and then we're gonna have the same thing. We're gonna play around with the buttons using a container. And then here, I'll just add one more button to go to that page. All right, UI demo, this is a container. So that way we'll go to the demo. Oh, wait, I didn't change the name. I should actually change the name first. Okay. So going back here, I can change the container. And then just import it. All right, and then if we run the app. Okay, so we got a container. That's going to be the same thing here. Okay, so let me go back to container. And yeah, so the main thing I want to share here about the containers is actually very useful controlling like a widget. It doesn't give you anything concrete, but it controls the layout, the margin, the size, and everything. Okay, so to use the container, you always wrap the things with the widget. Okay, for example, in this case, I have one button here, and I want to wrap it. To wrap it, the best way basically use the auto completion feature to do it. But if you don't need to do it, you can also understand that this is a container. Just type it inside a container. That's a child. That's it. Very simple. And then whatever you want to wrap, and then put it into the child. That's it. I'll put it here. All right, so that's how you can wrap something into a container. I have this thing, the same thing in the video. So this one doesn't do anything. As you can see, the same thing. But what a container can do, it can give you height and width. Okay, so I can do a height. I can do 50. Refresh. That's a little bit higher. I can do 150, and that's a little bigger. Okay, that's one thing you can control. You can control width. Oh, yeah. Width, and then I will do 200, a little bigger, and 300, and even bigger. All right. So this is the most important thing you can do: height and width. And then another commonly used case is that how do you do things, like for example, to touch the whole screen, like to be the whole width of the screen. Because when you program app, you should try to not use the hard-coded values. Okay, the hard-coded value isn't very flexible because different screens have different sizes. Okay, so if you want to do that, Flutter container with match parent. Okay, they use this infinity. All right, so that's easy. So we can try this one. Okay, I'm gonna do a different one. Actually, I'm gonna use the ListView button so that's easier to see. So this button right here, if I want to change that one into match parent. So again, this time I'm gonna go here and then use this little button to help us to wrap with the container. So it's much more helpful and convenient. So click on the mouse here, move the cursor around, you will see the little light bulb icon, and then I'm gonna wrap with the container. Let's do this, and everything will be done automatically. Okay, so now here I do with double dot infinity. Refresh, and your button go to the whole screen. So this one is very useful because a lot of the time you might want this one go to as right as you can. All right. And the last thing you want to know is the margin. Okay, because this one, for example, it touches screen, doesn't look very good. And the way to add a margin is that, again, I'm going to use this one as an example. Wrap that with the container. All right. So let me get the width first. Again, it's going to be infinity. Okay. But I don't want this one to touch the edge of the screen. It doesn't look very good. So I can add a margin. Margin is also controlled by container. So margin. And then there are two ways to do it. One way you can add a margin to every direction. Another way will be controlling every single direction. So it's called add index dot only. And then you want to add margin only to certain direction. You can do the left and top and right and bottom. Okay, so I'm going to do the left. I want to do 10. On the right, also want to do 10. All right, refresh. As you can see, 10 margin has been added. Okay, so, oh, sorry, I did 20. That's right. Okay, 10. You can also do, for example, top. I want to do 40. Refresh, and you got 40 margin. So very easy to use. Okay, this is index dot only. Add index dot only. All right. You can also do index dot all that add margin to everywhere, but that's basically, if you know this one, you don't need the other ones. All right, so container, that's it. It's mostly to control height and width and the margin. It's very useful. You can always do other things. You can control the background, under those, not very common, but this positioning and sizing is really what the container can help you. All right. Let me actually show here. This, I will type this one, okay, margin control. With match size. All right, so that we have a better idea. Okay. Any questions? Yeah, so Michael, good question. Hard coding the margin. So first of all, there's not much you can do except hard coding the margin, because you could actually do some calculation to see the space and everything. It's not really needed. The reason I think margining, if you hard code, is fine is because this margin normally are smaller values. You're mostly talking about 5, 10, 20. So those actually won't affect too much across different screens. Okay, you just want to make sure getting some little bit of spaces there. That's why the margin is totally okay with hard coded. But if your margin goes very big, then that's the same issue. You're gonna have this kind of ratio issue. So dealing with the ratios, I'll talk a bit later. I like to use like the expanded something called expanded with the column and rows to split the screen space with percentage. Okay, and then you go from there. But using a smaller value margin, I think it's not going to be too big a problem. But you really want to avoid this one. This is not good. If you do this button, then you never know what the screen will look like. Sometimes you will go overflow. Right? Yeah, so with that, column and rows. So we will show kind of examples here. Let's actually copy this again. Still use a button. Demo column. Factor. Here, we'll just add one more. We could actually replace this part with a list, okay, instead of the hard coded, but that's fine, not too big deal. All right. And this one, demo. All right, run this app again. Okay, so we got a column here, and then go to new screen. All right, so the column is something we've been always using. And if you look at documentation, the column here is, again, a layout control. It's the most important layout control in the Flutter. It put everything vertically because most of the app, you're going to run the app vertically. Okay, that's why you have the children. You can put the list of items. You can have multiple of those. And they will always place one after another vertically, just like this. Okay, so this one is pretty straightforward. Nothing really to talk too much. I just want you to know a couple of things. Number one, you can actually do alignment. Okay, so as you can see here, if you want everything to be centered in vertically in the middle, now you could actually control that in the column here. It's called a main axis alignment, and then it's going to be something like center. If you do this, okay, let me actually try this again. Or it should be the other way. Yeah, sorry, this is some reason it's not really updating, but change this one. All right, so they put everything in the middle. That called main axis. So this one is very confusing when you use column and rows. The main axis for column is actually the vertical one. That's called main. But later on, if you use a row, it's actually the horizontal one. But you never need to memorize that. Just try it, just so you know that there's a way you can, there's a way you can control the alignment. This center here simply centers things, I think, based on the, based on the space you have, center everything. So again, there's no rules on how you do this one. You just need to play around with things. I just want to introduce this one. It's something very commonly used. Okay, another one is cross-axis alignment. Again, this one does similar things as that center. And the other one, I think this one does the same thing as this, puts things vertically. Sorry, horizontally, center them. All right, so that's it. These two attributes, you can take a look. Now, the main thing I want to actually share is how do we control the different spacing here? Okay, so we got a different button. Let me actually change all of them into a alleviated button so you can actually see the size. Okay. So maybe you want that. I don't want this button to just be like this. I want them to be bigger, taking bigger spaces. This button is for one, this is for the second part, this is for the third part. I want them to be, equally splitting the whole space of the screen. All right. So that's what I mentioned you need to deal with some of the margin, sorry, the ratio. Okay. Now, one way you can do is you can use a container I just introduced, and then you can do the height. For example, I do a height. This one goes to 200. Why it's a little bit slow to take. Is that a big call? Yeah, so some reason it's really slow. Okay, now you can do that. And then this one here, you can also do a 200. All right, so something like that. But then you're hard coding them. Okay, you don't know if 200 is right or not. So this is not a good way. To solve this problem, now you could use something called expanding. All right, let's try this. I'm going to go here and then add and wrap this thing with expanded. They don't have this one here, but I can do a custom widget. I will do expanded. So expanded works in the same way as the container. It just expand one child. So if you do this, go back, you can see this guy is suddenly becoming huge. What happened is that we want this one to expand to the whole screen, but still you still give the space for the other two. But all the space will be given to this one because this one is expanded. All right, so that's how the expander works. Now, if you don't know this one, I can also expand others. I can do this. All right, and then if you refresh, so this one and this one takes a whole space, but they still leave some space needed for the second button. And then right here, expand it. All right, so I'm gonna refresh. All right, so now the three of them, they share the space. Okay, so something is okay. So I think it's very laggy for some reason. I should show some kind of messages. That's how the expanded works. Now, keep in mind, expanded only works with column and rows. If you don't have a column, then there's nothing to expand. I don't think it will work. Okay, so it works with a layout. And then inside that layout, we actually try to let certain ones to take all the space. If you know this, and then you will say that, what if I don't want them to equally split the space? I want, this guy to take bigger, this one take smaller. Okay, that's where you do the ratio, right? So to do a ratio is very easy. So inside the expander, you do something called flex, then you give a number. The number will be eventually, ratio. Okay, so for example, I wanted this guy to take 25% of the screen. This one take 25% of the screen. And then this guy take 50%. Okay, so it's 1, 1, 2, this ratio. Refresh again. You can see there's 25, 25, this one takes half. Okay, that's how the flex works. I really like this kind of expanded with flex. I do this a lot because it gives us a very easy way to split the screen into different sections. And then you go inside each section and to work on the UIs you want. And don't forget, every child could contain another column or another row. So the container can also contain containers. Okay, here I'm just using a button to show an example. All right, so that's how the expanded flex works. More details, you can actually find that in the actual video. I talked about column and rows. This is the most important layout you need to master. Okay, here I just want to give you a quick recipe that the expanded flex, the ratio, controlling the space is actually pretty easy. All right. So with that, I'm going to turn into row. Okay, row is the same as column, but it's just horizontal. Okay, so very quick, I'm going to copy this one here. So this is the row. Let's rename everything. All right. So if you do row, and actually let's actually get another button first. All right, so let's take a look at the row. And then right now it's the same thing, but if I change the column into row, it should just bring everything horizontal, as you can see. One button, one button, one button. This takes 50%, 25%. Okay, so I'm not gonna show too much, exactly the same thing. Expand also works here. And then just keep in mind this part here, you just need to try it to see you should use the min axis or cross axis alignment. Okay. You want what's your question about the expanding? You have more questions about the expanded? Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so that's the Legola. Legola is a big deal. Okay, you guys want to spend more time with it. But it's column or rows. If you master the tool, you can do anything you want. Don't forget that you can mix them. You can hybrid them. You can have a column. Column can contain columns, and then it can contain rows, and they can go back and forth, go to different levels. One more thing here is the sized box. That also find useful. All right, so for example, if we go to the column here, and then this one here, you can see it's very, very close and doesn't look very good. Now I told you you can do margin, that works. So for example, I go here, I go to add a container, and I do, margin. I want to do bottom 20. All right. So this one, oh, I can't, sorry, I can't put a container also to wrap the expanded. I should have this one to wrap with the container and expand it with on top of everything. Yeah, so we do that, margin and bottom and 20. Okay, so that way they still have all the space, but there's a little bit of margin added. Okay, so this is one way to do it, but sometimes you just want them to have some kind of split. So one thing I see a lot of people are using is called a SizeBox. So there's 3 sections here. I want to give a margin. I'll do a size box. It's very easy. So you just specify the height. I want to give 20. Okay. And then you do it. That's it. And now I want to add another size box. That's it. So sometimes we find this is actually very easy to use because you don't have to do the wrapping things. And in Android, we also do a lot of this, but there's no this kind of sidebar. We sometimes put an empty text and to add a placeholder. It doesn't show anything, but just for us to fill in some kind of space. So that's what the size box does. All right. So any questions so far? Okay, so next one, let's look at some other things. I want to finish this one today. Okay, images. All right, so this one isn't too difficult to use. Let's actually still copy the button page. So run this one here. Image here. Image is mostly done with the image class. All right, so here, let's actually try those. So I'm going to display one image. And then here you will do, I actually forgot. So let's actually search. Yeah, very simple. You can just get something from the network. It's really easy. So in Android again, we don't have this one, but there are a lot of third parties being built to support things like this. Okay, so I think that will be an easy way to go. Try this. Okay, so refresh. All right, so load the image. Pretty straightforward. All right, just so you are. This is a very commonly used approach. You can also do a local file and right. So you can go right click, save the image. All right, we'll do the CPP logo. So if you want to put it, actually this SVG, I don't know if SVG actually works. Let's actually do something else. Okay, so you need to get this file to your folder first, the project folder. As I showed you last time, I created the assets folder. I'm going to create another one for images. Let's simply copy your file here. Okay, and then from here, you will need to also specify the assets. Okay, so last time we did fonts. We also need to do the images. Right. So that's something like this. And actually specify the folder is assets/images, and it's the CPP logo dot. All right, so this one you probably need to reload everything, rerun your app, and then inside the image, then things will be easy. I think you can do an image dot asset, yeah, and then simply say this one. I think you have to specify this again. Let's see if that works. So either local file or file online. All right, so let's refresh. It's very laggy. Let's try this here. Back to something. Okay. Anyways, today at some reason there's a lot of synchronization issues. Okay. All right. So that's it. That's about the image. But then when you're dealing with the image, very common case you will need to face is the size and ratio. So for images size, you can always use the container. For example, this one here. Okay. So I don't want this one to be too big. Okay. We'll just do a size using container. And then from there, you can do, I'll do a height, for example, 200 only. All right, so as you can see, automatically this image will be lower. And when they lower it, automatically also scale it. Now, this case is easy because this is a square image, so you can easily, whatever size you do, you can always just do the same size for the other end. Okay. For example, but for Poly Pomona one, this one is rectangle, right? So if you do so let's actually find a better example. Maybe we do, yeah, let's try this one. Okay, I'm gonna do another one. image dot network. Okay, you got one more. But if I want this one also to be sized, let me try this. Excuse me. And then I will, let me see. Wrap with container. And then I will do this time I'm gonna do a height and width. Okay, height maybe 100. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, but I also want to do a width, maybe also 100. All right, so it looks like they do this kind of scaling automatically, which is a lot easier right now. Okay, what if I do the what if I do width smaller than the height? Okay, so anyway, so as you can see this way, what I want to do is I want to sometimes, because you have a specific container that you have a size, you want to fill in an image, but the image ratio not necessarily the same. Like in this case, I want a higher image but a narrower image, 200 or 100 by 200, but your image is actually a horizontal rectangle. Okay, that won't fit. Now to show you that one, I can show you here. I think there's a way to show the baseline. Yeah, this one here. Guys, can you see my screen? You can click on a button. You can see all how they're taking all the space. You can see this is the container I gave, and then that's the image. The reason the image becomes so small because that's the only way they can fit it in, right? But sometimes you don't want this one. You know, I can rescale the image to make it larger, even though I'm losing some kind of an image content. That's fine. Okay, so I think there are ways you can do the image scaling. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show. So they do the image and yes, and the fit. So for any kind of these images, you can have a feature called a fit. So you specify the URL and you go to fit. And then for the fit, you have different options. Okay, you got a box fit. There's a cover, there is a fill, there you know, some other things. I think the fill is trying to fill in the whole space. Let's try that. So I'm going to do this. As you can see, this one fills in all the space, but it's actually lose the ratio because this picture is not really a vertical version. Okay, so let me actually do a little bit more versions. You know, let me delete this to save some space so I can show more examples. Okay, another one you probably use very common is something called a cover. So the cover is that you can see it will not lose your ratio. It will actually crop your image and then put them into the center so that you have this kind of nice view here. The cover is very useful because a lot of the case, you know, you don't have to show the whole thing. If even the ratio is off a little bit, you just need to crop the extra ones and then put the rest in the middle. That's it. Okay, so the cover one is very, very useful. These are the things I mainly want to show you to how do you operate the images, use the network and then fill in. The other one you see earlier, I think that's also one of the type, which is I forgot what's the name. Let's see. That contain. Yeah, that's called a contain. So basically make this one contain inside. All right. So I'll make this one smaller. Okay. Maybe 150. 15. All right. So that's the different type of scaling, how that works. This one, when you do the scale, sorry, when you do the fit, you need to have some kind of container. You need to know the boundary, where the boundary is, so that you can then specify the way to fit it. All right. So these are important things to know about images. And once you start to use that one, you can play around with it. Two ways, either local file or actual file from. Okay. Now, next one, very important one, ListView. Okay. So ListView, I have also a video to just talk about it. So let me still start from the button here. Demo ListView. So that's why I don't want to repeat too much, but a very quick code here. ListView. All right, so let me close this one. All right, so let's actually change this into ListView. For ListView example, the best example is from Flutter. So if you go further, ListView, and they have some very good examples. Okay, the first one isn't very useful, but it does shows what the ListView looks like. If you go here, and let's actually replace. All right, so I do want to mention this one here, guys, because last time you mentioned, some of you did suggest that to show some errors. This is actually a very common thing error when you do ListView. Okay, like I put all the code here, very simple. That's the ListView, have some children and there some specification for the text and colors, but it's not really showing. And if you look at the error, something about has size or something like this. Basically, what happened is that when you are using a ListView, you need to give the ListView like a defined space or a height, so that the ListView know how high they can go, so they will actually render the scrolling accordingly. Okay, so what does that mean? So if I actually, for example, make a ListView expanded, so if I go here, I go expanded, that should actually fix the issue. You can see, because this way you got a whole width, a whole height for your ListView to use. You can add things and then you can show it. All right. I'm not sure about a container. Let's try this. Okay, if I do container, if I give a specific height, I'm not sure if that's going to work. And that also works. Okay, and I can give like a smaller height, like 100. Yeah, as you can see, this one here, you should be able to scroll it, right? Yeah, see, that's how you can scroll it. So that means that's what the height size means. So in the ListView, you must give some kind of size, otherwise it doesn't know what to do. Okay, so I'll still use expanded. So that's a very commonly way of common thing error. Okay, but this is a hard-coded ListView. You're never going to do this one. Okay, the ListView here, you put 3 elements. This is not going to work, because what if you have more elements? So that's why they keep showing you another example. You should actually have a list, and they use a list to fill in this ListView by using a ListView.builder. So basically, this one connect your data with all the UI components. Okay, so we're going to do this one here. All right, I'm going to delete this. And so you define entry and then color code. And here, let's just copy this code, this ListBuilder, pretty straightforward. All right. So this way, the ListBuilder, you can see specify a lot of attributes, padding, basically the space, and then how many items in total. So that depends on the size of your list. And then what do you do for each item? Okay, I'm going to specify the height and color, and this one here show the text. So going back here, let's run it. So it's actually slash. Okay, so that's how it works. And then the nice thing about this one, you can keep adding things, right? I can keep adding more elements. Why do we suddenly lose that? Okay, let me stop it. Let me run this one again. So this is the way to go for ListView. Whenever you use ListView, you should think about what the data is included so that you can map those into this builder here. All right, so you can just change the data automatically, refresh, and show the new ListView. All right. One more thing for ListView, you need to click on the item, right? So that's very typical. So what you need to do with that is here. Okay, you need to replace this container or wrap the container with something called a ListTile, I think. Let's try that. It's called a ListTile. And then here, you don't call it a child, you call it title. Okay, so if you do this, this part here remains the same, nothing changed, but with the ListTile, you can have something called on tap. I don't know why it's actually used all the different names. Okay, not sure why it's changing the name, not called on click but on tap. But then here you can see which item you're clicking. Look at the index. Index is actually the method here for every item. So if you refresh here, if I do click on a button, you can see which item you're clicking, and then you can grab the data. Okay, so that's how it works. So the ListTile, that is something related with tagging. If you don't need tagging, then that's fine. This is the container is enough. All right. So ListView, a lot of you probably haven't done this one yet, so that's why I'm not going to spend too much time. But I have a more detailed example from the video. All right. Bottom navigation bar. You probably will need this one. Okay, so I'll create another screen here. Still use the button. All right, so okay, so this one again, there is a perfect demo provided by Flutter. So Flutter, bottom navigation bar, and just reuse the same code here. Okay, so the best one will be here. Yes, differences. And this is just a little bit more styling. Yeah. Okay, so this one we can let me get the most useful code there. Okay, so the main item that you can see, you need to specify bottom navigation bar. That's a part of your scaffold. Okay, I'm going to copy this one here. So it's actually after the body, and then we can do a bottom navigation bar here. Now, very easy to understand. So you create a bottom navigation bar. You got items. You got 3 items. That's why you're going to see 3 icons at the bottom. Here you all specify the icon and label name, everything. And then you do need to record what's the current select index, which bar item you're selecting, and what that color is. And then also what happened if you tap on that. So this is the function, this is the variable. Okay, so let's take a look at the function. They do provide a list of, let's actually copy this one. They have a list of items here. So let me actually copy those. All right, and yeah, that's the style. Okay, so let's do a style. We need that first. Simpler the better. Okay, so you got a list of widgets. So when you click on different things, it's going to show you the different things. Okay, and then when you are tapping on one of the items, you have a listener here. They're going to change the index. Okay, the index really specifies which item to show. So when you tap something based on the index, we're going to update that index. That's going to trigger the updating of the whole screen, so that we need to modify our screen. Our screen will be here. The body, this time simply just try to do the actual element. So let's actually look at the code all together at the very end. Okay, I'm going to do this one here. So now this time the center, you don't need a lot of things. So which part is it? Let's see. Center. Yes. Okay. All right. So let's actually see what the code does. Refresh. Go here. As you can see, 3 bottom navigation bar, 1, 2, 3, and then you select those. You can see the index and name. There's also a little icon highlighted with a color. That's what they do. But then the way they implement this one is very simple. So here, you basically need to define all the views into the list. So in the body, right here, you just need to say, okay, which index are you at? And I'm going to pick that element and put that into the screen. So this navigation bar here lets you to specify the different items and then recording which one you're currently in terms of index, and then we highlight the color. This is what triggers a change. You click on the bottom navigation bar, we're going to know the index you're clicking, and then we're updating the index, and then if this select the index is updated, it will trigger this part to be changed. That's how everything being put together. Okay. Now you could actually replace this one with our screens. For example, I can do demo text page. I can do demo button page. This one is demo image page. All right, I can put the pages here also in the list. It works the same way because widgets, the widgets are the screens are also a kind of widget. But this is a kind of overflow because you have extra bars. If I specify here, this is the button demo. This is text demo. Yeah, I'll replace this one with demo and text page. Text button and wait, why is not this is updating today isn't very working. All right, so that's how you can change different pages, but you definitely need to get rid of the bottom of the app bar, everything, so they don't overlap. Okay, so that's how you implement the bottom navigation bar. Okay. Again, this one I have to go too fast because you guys probably haven't done this yet. The very last one is the drop down button. That's also very easy. So one last try here. Okay. Drop down. I find that it's also very useful sometimes. Do this one more time. Refactor. Then we'll drop down page. Okay. Now for here, run this one more time. Again, we're going to look at the Flutter tutorial. Drop down button. All right, so it's something like this. This one is similar to the list view, that you have to provide the list of items to choose, and then the widget will deal with it. So that's how it works here. Okay, you can see. Okay, so let's simply copy this whole thing. Okay, copy this whole drop down button. This is actually a large element here. Okay, let's copy this whole thing. Go back to our code. Okay, so drop down button, let's go through the attributes we need. There is a value. Value is actually which one you eventually select. Okay, icon is a little icon that shows here. This is this little icon here. And then alleviation, I think some little bit shadow style. This is the text style, the purple, and underline, that's for the UI. The important one's item. This is 4 items you can choose. You basically need to turn them into some kind of list, and then you need to add them into the drop down menu items. So this is like a very concise code that actually they go with the list, and then they map them into a drop down menu item list with this little function, and then eventually they turn that is. It's a simplified way to writing this one. You can always create a new drop down menu list by yourself instead of using this one. And here, whenever you click on the change it, you want to know what the new value you're creating so that we can record it. So this is just a variable to record that change. Okay, so we will actually save this one here. All right, so that's it. So if we run this app, go to drop down, and then we got the same thing. That's exactly the same thing. And now whenever you click on this one, you should be able to find the current value from the drop down value right here. So we can print it. Okay, so print current. Okay, so you can specify, you can see what you're treating right now. All right, so this one you might also need at some point, but a lot of UIs and you still need to polish them, make it wider and change the icon, something like that. All right, so that's, I think, all you might need actually. So believe it or not, if you know all this list of things I'm showing you, you pretty much you can do anything you want. Okay, and you don't need to learn every single widget based on what you need to build your application. Everything, again, I'm talking about, there's one I normally use. As you can see, I don't have to look through too much materials. I know exactly where they are. I know exactly what part of the code to copy just because I have done that so many times. That also shows these are the ones that really frequently being used. Okay, so let me actually stop recording first.